The first thing anyone remembered about first contact wasn't the ships. It was the silence. For 3 whole minutes, every satellite feed on Earth went dead, every radar, every GPS, every radio frequency, every single thing that made humanity feel connected. Then, at 0903 hours, the sky over the Pacific opened like a wound. Lieutenant Aaron Keller had been stationed aboard the USS Henderson, a destroyer running quiet patrol near Guam. The ocean was calm that morning, unnaturally calm, like it was holding its breath. When the clouds split apart and the light came, the sea mirrored it, turning to molten silver. "Jesus Christ," Keller whispered, squinting into the glare. From horizon to horizon, colossal shapes descended, not ships in any human sense, but structures that folded in and out of visibility, like glass bending around invisible frames. They didn't fly, they arrived, displacing air and gravity in waves that made every compass needle spin like a broken clock. The first thought on everyone's mind: aliens. The second, invasion. The president's emergency broadcast hit every working screen an hour later. The voice was calm, but the words were not. This is not an isolated event. Every continent has reported similar entries. Remain calm. Evacuation protocols will begin immediately in all coastal cities. But calm was already a luxury. Cities were burning before the broadcast even finished. Keller's unit was reassigned to the Global Defense Initiative, a newly formed joint command merging NATO and what remained of the Pacific Fleet. Their objective: establish contact, or failing that, survive. By the second week, contact was no longer an option. The enemy called themselves the Orcath, though the name was translated later by linguists who barely understood their tone-based speech. They weren't here to negotiate, they were here to cleanse. To them, humanity was an infestation, a biological mistake born on a planet too rich for its own good. Keller's platoon was deployed in what used to be San Francisco, now nothing more than ash and steel bones. The Orcath didn't use bullets or bombs, they used disruptors, weapons that fractured molecular bonds. Everything they touched dissolved into dust and glass. Yet, against all logic, humanity fought back. The turning point came during the Battle of Twin Peaks, a stretch of crumbling hillside where resistance fighters managed to down one of the alien crafts using scavenged missile systems. The wreckage became the first real proof that the Orcath weren't invincible. Keller crouched behind a collapsed freeway column, rifle clutched tight, radio crackling with static. "Bravo team, move. They're flanking from the north." Sergeant Diane Morales, his commanding officer, barked orders through the calm. Her voice was sharp, but the exhaustion beneath it was unmistakable. Keller sprinted across the open gap, explosions ripping through the asphalt. The sky burned with tracer fire, streaks of plasma slicing the fog. He slid into cover beside Morales, chest heaving. "We're low on rounds," he muttered. "We can't hold much longer." "We don't need to hold," she replied. "We just need to make them bleed." Through the smoke, one of the Orcath appeared towering, armored, its limbs jointed wrong. Its eyes shimmered with vertical light, unblinking, analytical. It raised its weapon, a black spear that hummed like a tuning fork, but Keller fired first. The bullet sparked off its armor, but one shot pierced through a joint. The alien staggered, fell, convulsed. When its body hit the ground, the earth shuddered. Morales stared at it, disbelief and awe mixing on her face. "You just killed a goddamn Orcath." "No," Keller said quietly. "Just one of their soldiers." For the first time, the humans realized something. The Orcath might have come from the stars, but they bled. That single kill spread like wildfire across every surviving radio channel. Morale surged. Command authorized full-scale countermeasures, adapting scavenged alien tech into crude weapons. Within days, the phrase Project Bastion became a whispered promise, humanity's first real strike back. But the Orcath were learning, too. At dusk, Keller's squad was ordered to hold a perimeter around the downed alien craft. The air shimmered with residual heat from its impact. The smell, metal and ozone, clung to everything. "I don't like this," Morales said quietly. "They'll come for it." "That's why we're here," Keller replied. Inside the wreck, human engineers worked feverishly to extract power cores and decipher alien systems. One of them, Dr. Sarah Hendricks, emerged from the craft, face pale under the flickering emergency lamps. "Lieutenant Keller," she said, gripping a data slate. "Whatever this thing runs on, it's alive." Alive? Organic circuits. Neural tissue wired into crystalline matrices. The ship thinks. Before Keller could respond, the world exploded in white light. The Orcath counterattack was swift and silent. No plasma bolts, no screams, just a pulse that flattened everything in a half-mile radius. When Keller woke, half his unit was gone. Morales lay pinned under debris, her leg crushed. "Go," she hissed, blood in her teeth. "Get Hendricks out." "I'm not leaving you." "That's an order, soldier." Keller hesitated, then lifted the doctor, carrying her toward the ridge as alien drones descended like falling stars. Behind them, Morales detonated the last of their charges. The explosion rolled through the valley, taking the wreck and every Orcath with it. By dawn, the sky was choked with ash. Keller stood at the edge of the ruined battlefield, Hendricks beside him, both watching the sunrise through a haze of smoke. "She didn't die for nothing," Hendricks whispered. "We have what we need." "You mean that data slate?" "Yes. It contains their network protocols. Their ships communicate through biosynaptic relays. If we can mimic that frequency, we can strike back," Keller finished. He looked up at the bruised sky, at the faint shimmer of alien vessels far above the clouds. And in that moment, something inside him hardened. "They thought they understood combat," he said. "They don't know what war is." The war entered its 5th month, and Earth no longer looked like itself. Cities were skeletal silhouettes under permanent clouds. Power grids flickered, oceans boiled along coasts where orbital strikes had fallen, and entire continents were cut off from communication. Humanity had been pushed underground, literally. The remnants of the Global Defense Initiative operated out of a sprawling network of bunkers beneath Cheyenne Mountain, Colorado. There, under a mile of reinforced rock, survivors gathered to plan the unthinkable, taking the fight off-world. Lieutenant Aaron Keller walked the dimly lit corridors that still smelled of burnt wiring and antiseptic. The hum of generators filled every silence. Soldiers, engineers, medics all moved like ghosts, surviving on caffeine, adrenaline, and fragments of hope. Dr. Sarah Hendricks waited for him in the main lab, a makeshift research chamber filled with scavenged Orcath equipment. Alien crystals pulsed faintly in containment fields, like veins of living light. "You look like hell," she said, glancing up from her terminal. "Haven't seen a mirror in weeks," Keller replied. "Tell me you've got good news." She exhaled and gestured to the centerpiece of the lab, a pulsing sphere of violet light surrounded by a cage of human-made tech. "That," she said, "is an Orcath biocore. We managed to stabilize it. And more importantly, we can talk to it." Keller frowned. "You mean, communicate?" "More like intercept. Their ships use these cores to synchronize across their fleet. If we can mimic their neural frequency, we can infiltrate their network, feed them false commands, reroute their units, maybe even crash their systems entirely." "So we're going to hack the aliens," Keller muttered. "Using a brain." "Basically," Hendricks said with a tired smile. "But there's a catch. We'll need to transmit the signal from orbit." "Meaning we have to get to orbit." The unspoken weight of those words filled the room. Humanity hadn't launched anything into space since the invasion began. Every satellite, every shuttle, every carrier had been destroyed. The sky belonged to the Orcath now. Still, Keller saw something in Hendricks' eyes he hadn't seen in months: conviction. "There's one shuttle left," she said quietly. "Hidden at Edwards Air Force Base. Experimental Orbital Platform, Project Valkyrie. It was meant to test autonomous launch systems. We retrofit it, get that biocore aboard, and send it up." "And who flies it?" "You," Hendricks said. 2 weeks later. The convoy rolled through what had once been Nevada, now a wasteland of glass plains and black sand. Keller's unit, codenamed Echo 7, escorted the core inside a reinforced containment trailer. Every soldier carried scavenged alien rifles slung over their backs. Morales' old dog tags hung from Keller's neck, clinking softly with each step. The desert was silent, save for the wind. And yet, they were being watched. "Eyes in the sky," whispered Corporal Jennings, scanning the horizon through his scope. "Drones. 2 of them, low altitude." "Ignore them," Keller ordered. "They'll track us anyway. We move before they get reinforcements." By nightfall, the convoy reached the skeleton of Edwards Base. The hangars were shattered, the runways scarred, but deep inside a blast vault, the shuttle still rested. Its hull gleamed beneath dust and darkness, marked with faded letters, Valkyrie 01. It wasn't large, just a hybrid prototype designed for short orbital jumps. But it would have to do. Hendricks and her team worked tirelessly through the night, integrating the alien biocore into the ship's power systems. The moment the circuits fused, the air temperature dropped 10 degrees. "It's alive again," Hendricks whispered. "And it knows we're not its masters." Keller glanced at the pulsing core through the viewport. The light inside shifted, almost like it was breathing. For the first time, he felt something not unlike dread. At dawn, the Orcath arrived. It began as a low hum, a vibration that made dust fall from the ceiling. Then the horizon shimmered, and hundreds of black, angular shapes appeared in the air, skirmisher drones, sleek and merciless. "Incoming! West Sector!" Jennings shouted. "Everyone, hold positions!" Keller barked. Missiles screamed from improvised launchers. Plasma fire tore through the desert, turning sand into glass. The air filled with smoke and static. Keller led the counterattack, firing until the barrel of his rifle glowed red. The first wave broke against the defensive lines, but a second came harder. One of the larger craft, a harvester, descended through the smoke, its massive shadow swallowing the ruins. "They're targeting the shuttle!" Hendricks shouted. "Not while I'm still breathing!" Keller yelled back. He sprinted across the open field, ducking under falling debris. The harvester unleashed a beam that carved a molten trench across the ground. Keller dove for cover, then looked up. Jennings had climbed the ruins of a hangar, a missile launcher balanced on his shoulder. "For Morales!" Jennings screamed and fired. The rocket hit dead center. The harvester exploded in a blinding flash, shards of alien alloy raining down. The shockwave knocked Keller to the ground, ears ringing. When he stood, the shuttle was still intact, barely. Jennings didn't make it down from the tower. The survivors regrouped as Hendricks initiated launch protocols. The shuttle's engines whined to life, dust swirling violently around the landing pad. "You can't fly this thing alone," Hendricks said, gripping Keller's arm. "Someone has to stay to guard the launch. If we both go, this place falls." "Then let me stay." "Not happening, document." Their eyes met, exhaustion, fear, and something unspoken between them. Then Keller placed Morales' dog tags in her hand. "If I don't come back, tell them why we fought." He sealed the hatch before she could answer. The Valkyrie roared upward, fire lighting the desert night. From orbit, Earth looked broken, a sphere half-shrouded in smoke. The Orcath fleet hung above it like a crown of daggers. Keller's breath fogged inside his helmet as he initiated the uplink. The biocore pulsed violently, feeding off his ship's power. The alien frequencies flooded the cabin, whispering, voices overlapping, words he couldn't understand but felt. Human, anomaly, resistance. He input Hendricks' final command sequence. The core screamed, a sound without sound, and light burst from every panel. One by one, Orcath vessels began to flicker. Their formations broke. Systems collapsed. The alien network was crashing. "This is for Morales," Keller whispered. "For Jennings. For all of us." But then the biocore changed color, from violet to red. It wasn't dying. It was fighting back. Down below, Hendricks watched from the control bunker as the alien fleet began to tear itself apart, and then, heartbreakingly, one of the ships collided with the Valkyrie. A streak of flame cut across the heavens, vanishing into the clouds. Static filled the combs. Then silence. Hours later, the alien fleet was gone and drifting, dead in orbit. the skies cleared for the first time in months. Humanity had struck back, but the cost was unbearable. Hendrix stood alone amid the ruins of Edward's base, staring at the sunrise. Morales dog tags hung from her neck now. "You did it, Aaron," she whispered. "You showed them what war really means." And somewhere above the clouds, in the debris field of shattered ships, a faint signal still pulsed, steady, rhythmic. Alive. The stars were silent again. For the first time in months, no ships darkened the sky. No thunder of plasma fire. No tremors rolling through cities. Just silence, raw, uneasy, holy silence. The world below was a graveyard. Billions gone. Nations erased. Yet somehow, humanity endured. Dr. Sarah Hendricks stood on a ruined rooftop in what had once been Denver, her gaze fixed on the clear horizon. The air still tasted of ash, but for the first time, sunlight touched the earth without distortion. Above her, faint trails of burning debris arced across the atmosphere, the last remains of the Orcath fleet, dissolving like meteors. She touched the dog tags hanging around her neck. A. Keller. LT U.S. Army. The metal was cold, heavy with memory. 3 weeks had passed since the counterstrike, since Keller's sacrifice aboard the Valkyrie. The alien network was shattered, their command hierarchy dissolved. What few Orcath remained planetside were leaderless, wandering, easy targets. Humanity had survived extinction. But deep down, Sarah knew survival wasn't victory. In the heart of Cheyenne Mountain, the survivors had turned the underground base into a city of sorts, a fractured civilization rebuilt from dust. Engineers cannibalized alien wrecks for energy sources. Farmers grew food under artificial lights. Children, the firstborn since the invasion, played in corridors once filled with soldiers. Yet the air buzzed with an unspoken tension. The Orcath had come from the stars. And if they could find Earth once, they could find it again. Sarah spent every waking hour decoding Keller's final transmission, the one that had brought down the alien fleet. It wasn't just a command signal. Buried beneath the data bursts, she found fragments, voice recordings, corrupted but distinct. At first, she thought it was interference. Then she heard it clearly. "Hendrix, if you're hearing this. I made it." Her heart stopped. The recording was faint, fractured by static, but unmistakable. Keller's voice, weak, tired, alive. Cores, damaged but stable. Orbit, decaying. Can't re-enter, yet. I can see them, Sarah. Hundreds of ships, derelict. Dead. We did it. Biocores still active. Trying to contain it. It's. The message cut off. For hours, Sarah sat staring at the monitor, trembling hands gripping the console. He wasn't dead. Somewhere above Earth, Keller was still out there, stranded among the ruins of an alien armada. "Lieutenant," she whispered. "Hold on. I'm coming." Day 217 after invasion. Sarah and her team restored one of the Orcath transport vessels, a small atmospheric skimmer built for short-range flight. Human engineering fused awkwardly with alien design, the controls glowed with eerie, organic light. Every officer told her it was madness to launch, that it was suicide to go back into orbit without full shielding. She didn't care. "He bought us this future," she said. "I'm not leaving him behind." She named the ship Echo 1, after Keller's unit. As the launch bay doors opened, a blinding sunrise spilled into the chamber. Sarah stood at the cockpit, hand trembling over the throttle. "Control, this is Echo 1, she said into the radio. "Initiating ascent." "Copy that, Echo 1, came the reply. "Godspeed, Doctor." The engines ignited with a low, living growl. Dust swirled, and the ship lifted through the ruined sky, climbing higher and higher until the clouds fell away, revealing the cold vastness of space. The orbital graveyard stretched endlessly before her. Thousands of alien vessels floated like carcasses, massive, silent, their hulls cracked and frozen. Debris shimmered in the weak sunlight. Somewhere among that metallic field of death drifted the wreckage of the Valkyrie. Her radar flickered. Signal lock acquired, the AI interface said in its neutral tone. Sarah's pulse quickened. She maneuvered through twisted debris, each fragment spinning in slow, graceful arcs. A broken Orcath cruiser drifted past, its surface pocked with scorch marks, its once living architecture now fossilized. Then, amid the wreckage, she saw it. The Valkyrie. Or what remained of it. Its hull was torn, half buried in alien metal. The cockpit canopy was shattered, but the core chambers still pulsed faintly, weak, rhythmic. Like a heartbeat. Sarah guided Echo 1 closer, engaging magnetic clamps. As her ship latched onto the wreck, she floated out through the airlock, tethered by a single line. The silence of space pressed against her ears. Only her breathing filled the helmet, quick, shallow. "Aaron," she whispered. "It's me. It's Sarah." Her boots touched the hull. The biocore chamber loomed ahead, flickering with unstable energy. Inside, a shape moved. When she wiped away the frost on the canopy, she saw him, Aaron Keller, pale and motionless, strapped into his seat. The faintest breath fogged the glass. He was alive. Back aboard Echo 1, Keller awoke slowly, his voice hoarse. "Guess I owe you one," he murmured. Sarah laughed through tears. "You owe me about 100, Lieutenant." He tried to sit up, groaning. "How long was I out?" 3 weeks. Maybe more. The fleet's gone. The war's over." "Over?" He shook his head. "No, not yet." Sarah frowned. "What do you mean?" Keller's expression hardened. He reached for the data pad clipped to his chest. "The biocore, it's not just a weapon. It's a signal relay. It's still transmitting." "To where?" "Deep space." Her stomach turned cold. "You mean?" "They're calling for reinforcements," Keller said quietly. "We killed their fleet, but not their empire." They stared out the viewport together. Beyond the debris field, in the distant void, faint pinpricks of light shimmered, moving against the backdrop of stars. Not shooting stars. Not meteors. Ships. "They're coming," Sarah whispered. "Yeah," Keller said, his voice steady now. "But this time, they'll find us waiting." He looked at her, the exhaustion in his eyes replaced by something fierce, almost defiant. "You said humanity survived. Let's make sure it stays that way." Back on Earth, months later, the first orbital defenses began to rise, cannons built from Orcath alloy, fusion reactors stabilized by alien cores, human warships forged from the bones of the enemy. The planet was scarred, but alive and learning fast. From orbit, Keller and Hendricks watched as the lights of rebuilt cities flickered back to life, like embers reigniting after a long night. "You think they'll come again?" she asked softly. "They will," Keller replied. "They always do. But this time." He looked down at the glowing world below. "They'll learn what humans become when there's nothing left to lose." The stars above flickered, not with fear, but with warning. 50 years later, in the quiet of deep space, a transmission pulsed from Earth's defense network, a single repeating message in both human and Orcath code. "We remember. We rebuild. We endure." Somewhere, light years away, another species intercepted the signal and hesitated. Because now, they knew. They thought they understood combat. But they hadn't yet made war with humans.